My son blocked me at the hospital entrance after I drove 16 hours through 2 states and said words that would destroy everything they built. Mom, you need to leave. Sarah does not want you here. This is family only. 5 days later, when the hospital billing department called asking about the $8,000 delivery bill under my name, I smiled for the first time since my grandson was born. Before we proceed, thank you for watching Granny's narrative. Please subscribe and tell us where you are watching from in the comment section. Let me take you back 3 weeks to show you how karma works when you mess with the wrong grandmother. My daughter-in-law Sarah called me sounding sweeter than honey. Mom Linda, the baby will be here any day now. We would absolutely love to have you with us when he arrives. You are going to be the most wonderful grandmother. I should have sensed something was wrong right there. After 6 years of marriage to my son Marcus, Sarah had never called me Mom Linda. She always kept her distance, polite but cold. But hearing about my first grandchild made me ignore every warning sign my gut was screaming. I am 63 years old. I live in Tampa. They live in Denver. 16 hours of highways, rest stops, and terrible gas station coffee. I packed my nicest clothes, bought gifts for the baby, and booked a hotel room near the hospital for 10 days. This was going to be the most important moment of my entire life. The drive was brutal. My lower back burned from sitting in the same position for hours. My eyes felt like sandpaper from staring at endless road lines. But every mile brought me closer to meeting my grandson. I only stopped twice for gas and bathroom breaks. I called Marcus 3 times during the drive to check for updates. Each time Sarah answered his phone with that sugary voice telling me to drive safe, and they could not wait to see me. When I finally pulled into the hospital parking garage at 3 in the morning on Wednesday, exhausted but buzzing with excitement, I felt like I had climbed a mountain. The maternity ward receptionist smiled and told me Sarah was in active labor in room 218. I practically ran down that hallway. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. That is when I saw Marcus pacing outside the delivery room looking stressed and jumpy. The second he spotted me walking toward him, his whole face changed. Not happiness, not relief, something closer to fear. Mom, what are you doing here? His voice was sharp and cold. What do you mean? Sarah invited me. She specifically asked me to be here for the birth. Marcus looked at the delivery room door and then back at me like he was trapped between 2 impossible choices. He changed her mind. She only wants immediate family in the building. But Marcus, I drove 16 hours straight. I am here now. I am not asking to be in the delivery room. Just nearby when my grandson is born. I know, Mom, but Sarah is really firm about this. The doctor said any stress could cause complications with the delivery. Something in the way he said it told me this was not a last-minute change. This felt planned, calculated. But I was too exhausted and shocked to argue in a hospital hallway at 3 in the morning. Fine. I will go back to my hotel and wait for your call. Tell me as soon as the baby arrives. Marcus looked so relieved that it confirmed everything I suspected. I was being deliberately pushed away. Thanks, Mom. I will call you the second he is born. Promise. I spent the next 9 hours in that sterile hotel room staring at my phone, checking it every few minutes. When Marcus finally called at noon on Wednesday, he sounded tired but happy. Mom, he is here. Baby Ethan Marcus Cole. 7 pounds 5 ounces. He is absolutely perfect. Congratulations, sweetheart. When can I come meet him? Another long pause that made my stomach hurt. Sarah is really exhausted, Mom. The delivery took a lot out of her. Maybe give us a couple days to get settled in. I felt like I was begging for permission to see my own flesh and blood. Marcus, I am his grandmother. I drove 16 hours to be here for this moment. I know, and we really appreciate that, but Sarah needs time to recover. You understand, right? Well, I did not understand. But what choice did I have except to agree? I spent 3 more days trapped in that hotel room, ordering room service, watching bad television shows, calling Marcus twice a day only to get excuses about why I still could not visit. Sarah needs rest. The baby is sleeping. The doctors said no visitors yet. Every excuse felt like a knife. Friday morning came and went with no update. I finally got dressed and drove to the hospital myself. I was determined to at least see my grandson through the nursery window if they would not let me in the room. When I got there, the nurse told me they had already been discharged. Gone home. Without telling me. I called Marcus immediately, and I could not hide the anger in my voice anymore. You took him home without even telling me. You did not think I deserved to know. Mom, Sarah wanted to get settled at home. She has been anxious about germs and having too many people around. I am not too many people, Marcus. I am your mother. I am Ethan's grandmother. I understand that. Listen, maybe in a few weeks when everything calms down. Few weeks. I drove 16 hours to see my grandson in a few weeks. That was the moment I made my decision. I hung up without saying goodbye, packed my suitcase, checked out of the hotel, and drove all 16 hours back to Tampa. If they wanted to exclude me from the most important moment of my life, fine. But they were about to learn that actions have consequences. Sunday evening my phone rang with a number I did not recognize. Denver General Hospital on the caller ID. Is this Linda Cole? Yes, this is she. We have a billing issue regarding the birth of Ethan Marcus Cole. Your insurance claim was rejected and we need to discuss payment options for the delivery charges. My heart started racing, but not with fear. With something that felt almost like satisfaction. I think there has been a mistake. I am not responsible for any medical bills. Our records show you as the primary guarantor for Sarah Cole's delivery. You signed financial responsibility documents. That is when I understood exactly what my dear daughter-in-law had done while I was driving across 2 states to be there for my grandson. Ma'am, according to our system, you electronically signed financial responsibility forms on November 8th at 10:32 at night. November 8th. That was the night I was somewhere in the middle of Arkansas. About 9 hours into my drive. Stopped at a rest area trying to stay awake with terrible coffee. How exactly were these forms signed? Through our online patient portal. The signature shows as yours. The pieces started clicking together in my mind. While I was white-knuckling my steering wheel through a rainstorm desperate to reach Denver, Sarah was forging my signature on financial documents. I need to see these forms immediately. Can you email them to me? Course. What email address should I use? 20 minutes later I was sitting at my kitchen table staring at documents that made my blood boil. Sarah had not just forged my signature. She had somehow gotten my social security number, my home address, and my banking information. The forms clearly identified me as the maternal grandmother. Except I was not the maternal grandmother. I was the paternal grandmother. Sarah's own mother lived right there in Denver. But what made me furious was the timing. These forms were submitted while Sarah was calling me and acting excited about me coming to Denver. She knew exactly what she was planning. Exclude me from the birth. Stick me with the bill. Make me look like a fool. I called the hospital back immediately. This is Linda Cole. I just reviewed those forms you sent me and I need to report fraud. Fraud, ma'am. First, I never signed anything. Second, I am not the maternal grandmother as your forms state. Third, these were submitted without my knowledge or permission while I was driving to Denver after being invited by Sarah Cole. The billing representative's tone changed instantly. Ma'am, if you are alleging fraud, I need to transfer you to our legal compliance department. Perfect. Do that. While I waited on hold, I pulled out my phone and started taking screenshots. Sarah's text messages inviting me to Denver. My call logs showing when she contacted me. Even photos I had taken during my drive with timestamps proving exactly where I was when those forms were supposedly signed. Mrs. Cole, this is the legal department. I understand you are disputing financial responsibility. I am not disputing anything. I am reporting identity theft and fraud. I have proof these documents are fake. For the next hour I gave the legal department every single detail. They were especially interested in how Sarah invited me to travel while simultaneously committing fraud in my name. Mrs. Cole, this is very serious. We will be filing a police report immediately and forwarding this to our fraud investigation unit. All charges against you are suspended while we investigate. After I hung up, I just sat there staring at my phone. Sarah had played this so perfectly. Get me out of Denver during the birth. have her private family moment. Then stick me with an $8,000 bill as a final insult. What Sarah did not know was that I spent 38 years working in medical billing and insurance before I retired. I knew exactly how hospital fraud investigations worked. I knew every law she had broken. And I knew Sarah had just committed several serious crimes. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Mom, hope you got home safely. Sarah and Ethan are doing amazing. He is such a calm baby. We will send you some pictures really soon." Pictures. After excluding me and committing fraud in my name, they thought pictures would fix this. I typed back a simple response. "So glad everyone is healthy. Looking forward to meeting Ethan soon." What I did not mention was that I had just spent my afternoon making sure Sarah's fraud would be investigated by both hospital security and the police. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face what they have done. Tuesday morning brought another call. "Mrs. Cole, this is Detective James Mitchell with the Denver Police Department. I have been assigned to your fraud case. I need to ask some questions." "Course, Detective. Go ahead. Can you walk me through everything that happened leading up to when you discovered the forged documents?" For the next 45 minutes, I told Detective Mitchell everything. Sarah's phone call invitation. A 16-hour drive. Being turned away at the hospital. Not being allowed to see Ethan for days. Then finding out about the fraudulent financial forms. "Mrs. Cole, do you have any proof supporting what you are telling me?" "Have text messages. Call logs. Photos from my drive with GPS data. Hotel receipts proving I was traveling when those forms were supposedly signed by me. I need copies of everything. This is looking like a clear case of identity theft and premeditated fraud. The fact that she invited you to travel while committing crimes in your name shows planning." Planning. Sarah had not panicked and made a desperate choice. She had calculated every step. The invitation. The rejection. The fraud. All of it designed to humiliate me while stealing money. "Detective, what happens now?" "We will get warrants for financial records, hospital security footage, and digital evidence from when those forms were submitted. If everything you told me checks out, your daughter-in-law will face multiple felony charges." After the call ended, I felt lighter than I had in days. Not because I wanted Sarah to go to jail, but because finally someone believed me. I was not being dramatic or sensitive. I was the victim of calculated crimes. My doorbell rang that afternoon. A woman in her 30s stood there holding a folder. "Linda Cole. I am Michelle Torres, fraud investigator with Denver General Hospital. I have documents for you to review." She handed me the folder and waited while I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots of security camera footage from the night those fake forms were submitted. "Mrs. Cole, these images were captured at 10:47 on November 8th. About 15 minutes after the financial forms were submitted under your name. There was Sarah clear as day hunched over a laptop in the hospital's family waiting room. The timestamp showed I was still 5 hours from Denver driving through a storm with zero cell service. What happens now, I asked. The evidence is overwhelming. Hospital fraud becomes a federal crime when it involves identity theft across state lines. Your daughter-in-law is looking at serious prison time and heavy fines. As Michelle Torres walked back to her car, I sat on my porch watching the Florida sunset. A week ago, I was a grandmother driving to meet her first grandchild. Now I was a crime victim, and my daughter-in-law was facing federal charges. My phone rang. Marcus's name lit up the screen, and I could tell from his tone that everything had changed. "Mom, what the hell did you do?" His voice was shaking with rage and something else underneath. Fear. "Hello, Marcus. I am fine, thanks for asking. Do not play games. The police came to our house this morning with a warrant. Sarah was arrested for fraud. They said you pressed charges." I leaned back in my porch chair watching a lizard run across my driveway. "I did not press charges, Marcus. I reported identity theft when the hospital called asking me to pay Sarah's delivery bill." "What delivery bill?" "The $8,000 bill for Ethan's birth that your wife stuck me with while you both played happy family without me." "That is impossible. Our insurance covered the whole thing." "Your insurance was denied, honey. That is why the hospital contacted me. Apparently, Sarah made me financially responsible while I was driving through Arkansas trying to get to you. Long silence. I could practically hear his brain trying to process this. Mom, there has to be an explanation. Sarah would not do that. Would not she? The same Sarah who invited me to drive 16 hours, then had you turn me away at the door? The same Sarah who avoided my calls for a week. She was recovering from giving birth. Marcus, she forged my signature on legal documents. There is hospital security footage of her doing it. This is not some misunderstanding. I heard Sarah's voice in the background getting louder and more frantic. Marcus covered the phone, but I could hear pieces of their argument. Sarah claiming it was all a mistake. That she only put my name as an emergency contact. That she never meant for me to be responsible for anything. David came back on the line. Mom, Sarah says this is a huge misunderstanding. She listed you as emergency contact, not financial guarantor. Marcus, I worked in medical billing for 38 years. I know the exact difference between an emergency contact form and a financial responsibility agreement. Your wife committed fraud. Jesus Christ. His voice cracked. Mom, what happens now? That depends on Sarah. The detective said if she makes full restitution and takes responsibility, they might reduce the charges. But Marcus, she did not just steal from me. She humiliated me. Made me drive 16 hours just to reject me at my own grandson's birth. Then tried to stick me with the bill. I know, and I am so sorry, but criminal charges. Prison. She just had a baby, Mom. And I just became a grandmother, Marcus. That did not stop her from committing identity theft, did it? I could hear Ethan crying in the background and my heart squeezed tight. This should have been such a beautiful time. My first grandson healthy and perfect. Instead, we were talking about felony charges. What do you want me to do? Marcus asked finally. I want you honest with me about what really happened. Did Sarah plan to keep me away from the birth from the very beginning? Another pause. Then so quietly I almost missed it. Even though I expected it, the confirmation still hurt. She said having you there would stress her out. That she wanted it to just be our immediate family. But I am immediate family, Marcus. I am your mother. I am Ethan's grandmother. No. I should have told you the truth instead of letting you drive all that way. I should have protected you. Yes, you should have. But you chose her feelings over mine. Now she is facing federal charges because neither of you thought about consequences. Sarah's voice got even louder and suddenly she was on the phone herself. Linda, this is all a terrible mistake. I never meant for you to pay anything. I was in labor. I was scared. I was not thinking straight and just filled out forms without reading them. Sarah, you submitted those forms at almost 11 at night while texting me about how excited you were to see me. You knew exactly what you were doing. Please, I just had a baby. My hormones are everywhere. Can we please work this out as family? We stopped being family when you forged my signature, Sarah. We stopped being family when you kept me from my grandson after making me drive 16 hours. Now we are just two people on opposite sides of a criminal investigation. You cannot do this to us. What about Ethan? Do you want him growing up without a mother? The manipulation was breathtaking. After everything she did, Sarah was trying to make me the villain. I want Ethan to grow up with honest parents, Sarah. That seems like too much to ask right now. Linda, please. I will pay the hospital bill myself. I will do whatever you want. Just make this go away. I cannot make anything go away, Sarah. The hospital filed the charges when they found the fraud. The police are investigating because you committed multiple crimes. This is not about what I want anymore. Marcus grabbed the phone back. Mom, Sarah's lawyer says if you refuse to cooperate with prosecution, the charges will probably get dismissed. And what exactly are you asking me to do, Marcus? Just do not testify. Do not provide evidence. Let this whole thing disappear. I closed my eyes and thought about all the years I supported Marcus. The college tuition I helped with. The down payment on his first car. The loan I co-signed when his credit was bad. The countless times I put him first. Marcus, your wife committed identity theft. She defrauded a hospital. She excluded me from my grandson's birth after manipulating me into crossing the country. And now you want me to help her escape punishment for all that. She's family, Mom. No, Marcus. Family does not do what Sarah did to me. Family does not humiliate each other then commit crimes to cover it up. So that is it. You are going to send Ethan's mother to prison. I am going to tell the truth when asked. What happens after that is up to judges and juries. I hung up and sat in the growing darkness listening to crickets chirp. My phone immediately started ringing again, but I turned it completely off. Tomorrow I had a meeting with the FBI agent handling the case, and I had a feeling things were about to get way more complicated. Because what I had not told Marcus yet was that investigators found something else. Sarah's fraud was not limited to Ethan's birth. The agents discovered evidence of similar schemes against at least 4 other family members over the past 3 years. Sarah Cole was not just a new mother who made poor choices. She was a serial con artist. And my case was just the beginning. FBI agent Rebecca Santos had the kind of steady, calm voice that probably came from years investigating financial crimes. She sat across from me in my living room with a thick file on the coffee table between us. Mrs. Cole, I need to prepare you for what we found during our investigation into Sarah Cole's activities. I had been expecting this since yesterday's call from Marcus. The way he sounded, desperate and cornered, told me there was more hiding under the surface. How bad is it? Agent Santos opened her file. Over the past 42 months, Sarah Cole has committed identity theft and fraud against at least 7 family members across 5 states. The total stolen exceeds $62,000. My stomach dropped hard. 7 people. Your case with the hospital bill is what broke everything open for us. When we investigated, we found a clear pattern. Sarah obtains personal information from family members, then uses it to open credit cards, take out loans, and submit fake insurance claims. She handed me papers showing a timeline of Sarah's crimes. Marcus's younger brother in California. $9,000 in unauthorized credit card charges Sarah opened in his name. Sarah's own cousin in Seattle. Stuck with a $6,000 dental bill Sarah somehow transferred to her. Marcus's aunt in Texas. $14,000 personal loan taken out in her name that she never applied for. Did any of them know what was happening? Most thought they were isolated incidents. Paperwork error here. An identity mix-up there. Sarah was careful to spread her crimes across geography and time so nobody would see the pattern. But people had to realize something was wrong. They did. But Sarah was skilled at explaining things away. She would claim computer glitches, clerical mistakes, temporary money problems she promised to fix immediately. She would even make small payments sometimes to keep victims from digging deeper. Agent Santos pulled out another document. The birth certificate fraud with your grandson was actually the most sophisticated scheme we have seen. She did not just steal your financial information. She created an entire false story about your relationship to justify making you financially responsible. What do you mean? On the hospital forms, Sarah claimed you were the maternal grandmother, and that you specifically requested to pay for the delivery as a gift to the new parents. She forged your signature on documents saying you were thrilled to cover all costs related to the birth. The nerve of it was staggering. Sarah did not just exclude me from Ethan's birth. She created a fake story about me being eager to pay for the privilege of being excluded. She told the hospital billing office you were wealthy and specifically asked to handle all expenses as your contribution. That is why they called you so confidently about payment. While she was actually keeping me from meeting my own grandson. Exactly. The cruelty is what makes this case so compelling for prosecution. It was not just financial fraud. It was psychological manipulation designed to cause maximum emotional damage while generating money. Agent Santos closed the file and looked straight at me. Mrs. Cole, you need to understand something important. Sarah's crimes were not impulsive decisions made under pressure. This was a calculated pattern spanning years. She stole from family who trusted her, destroyed relationships, and showed zero remorse until she got caught. What happens now? She is facing federal charges that could mean 12 to 18 years in prison. The state charges for identity theft could add another 3 to 7 years. With 7 victims across multiple states and sophisticated fraud patterns, this is an extremely serious case. My phone had been ringing all morning. Marcus calling every hour. Sarah's mother calling from Denver. Even Marcus's brother calling from California. I had not answered any of them. Agent Santos, can I ask you something? How did Sarah get all this personal information about so many family members? Social media mostly. She was very active in family Facebook groups. Birthday posts. Anniversary celebrations. People post their birth dates, their kids' full names, their anniversary dates. Sarah collected everything and used it to answer security questions when opening accounts. She used our family love against us. More common than you would think. Family members often have access to exactly the kind of personal details needed for financial fraud. And they are usually the last people we suspect. After Agent Santos left, I sat in my kitchen staring at my silent phone. 28 missed calls. 19 text messages. All from family members suddenly wanting to discuss Sarah's misunderstanding with hospital bills. I decided to call Marcus's brother Kevin first. He had always been kind to me, and I was curious what he thought about Sarah's crimes. And Linda, thank God you answered. Marcus told me what is happening with Sarah and the hospital bills. This is insane. Kevin, Agent Santos told me Sarah stole from you too. 9,000 in credit card fraud. Silence. Then how did you know about that? Because we are all victims of the same person, sweetheart. What did she tell you when it happened? She said it was an accident. That she accidentally used my information instead of hers when applying for a store card. She acted so embarrassed and promised to take care of everything. She even made a few payments for a couple months. But she never paid it all off, did she? Well, when I tried to push the issue, she got defensive. Said I was trying to ruin her family over a paperwork mistake. Marcus took her side. Told me I was being cruel. Kevin, that was not a paperwork mistake. That was identity theft. And it was not isolated. I spent the next 30 minutes telling Kevin about the 7 victims, the fraud pattern, and how sophisticated Sarah's operation was. By the end, Kevin was fighting back tears. Feel like such an idiot. I should have reported it right away instead of believing her lies. You trusted family, Kevin. That is not stupid. That is human. What are you going to do? I am going to testify truthfully about what she did to me. Sarah made her choices. Now she lives with what comes next. That evening Marcus showed up at my door. He looked awful. Unshaven. Exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. He was holding Ethan against his chest like a shield. Mom, we really need to talk. I looked at my grandson for the first time and my heart absolutely melted. He was perfect. Tiny and peaceful, sleeping against his father. This should have been the happiest moment of my entire life. Finally meeting Ethan. Instead, it was happening in the shadow of his mother's crimes. He is beautiful, Marcus. Mom, please. Sarah is looking at 18 years in prison. Ethan needs his mother. Ethan needs honest parents who do not commit crimes. She made mistakes, but she is not evil. She is just terrified of not having enough money. She grew up poor and she panics about financial security. Marcus, she stole from 7 different family members over 3.5 years. That is not panic. That is criminal behavior. Please just think about not testifying. Without your cooperation, the federal case falls apart. I held out my arms for Ethan and Marcus reluctantly handed him over. My grandson was warm and solid and absolutely perfect. I had driven 16 hours to meet him only to be turned away by his criminal mother. Marcus, answer me honestly. Did you know what Sarah was doing to other family members? Well, I swear I had no idea about any of it. But you knew she was keeping me from the birth while pretending I was welcome. And I should have stopped it. I should have stood up to her. You chose her over me, Marcus. You chose to protect her lies instead of protecting me from fraud and humiliation. I love you, Mom, but she is my wife. She is the mother of my child. I looked down at Ethan sleeping so peacefully in my arms. Such an innocent baby born into such a mess. What happens to Ethan if Sarah goes to prison? I do not know. I cannot afford childcare on my salary alone. My paycheck barely covers the mortgage now. And there it was. The real reason for this visit. Marcus was not just asking me to protect Sarah from consequences. He was asking me to solve his childcare problems by letting federal crimes go unpunished. That sounds like something you should have thought about before marrying a criminal, Marcus. I handed Ethan back to his father and walked to my front door. Mom, please. Good night, Marcus. Give Ethan my love. As I closed the door behind them, I realized my relationship with Marcus might never recover. But some things matter more than keeping family peace. Some things are worth fighting for even when it means standing completely alone. The courthouse steps were slick with morning dew as I walked toward the federal building in downtown Tampa. Agent Santos had explained that because Sarah's crimes crossed state lines, the case would be prosecuted in federal court instead of local courts. That meant traveling to the regional facility for hearings. Sarah's preliminary hearing was scheduled for 9 in the morning. I did not have to be there since witnesses would not be called until trial. But I wanted to see her face when the full scope of her crimes was read out loud in open court. The courtroom was mostly empty. Just lawyers, court staff, a few family members, and me sitting in the back row. Sarah sat at the defendant's table wearing an orange jumpsuit with her hands in shackles. She looked small and frightened. Nothing like the confident woman who manipulated me into driving 16 hours just to humiliate me. Marcus sat in the front row holding Ethan, with Sarah's parents on either side. None of them looked at me, though I saw Marcus's shoulders tense when I walked in. The United States versus Sarah and Cole, the clerk announced. Case number 2024-CR-2156. Federal Prosecutor Daniel Walsh stood up holding a file that seemed impossibly thick. Your Honor, the defendant is charged with 8 counts of identity theft, 5 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of mail fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud across state lines. The government alleges that over a 42-month period the defendant systematically targeted family members for financial exploitation. She stole over $62,000 and caused significant emotional and financial harm to victims. The judge, an older man with sharp eyes, reviewed the charges carefully. Ms. Cole, you are represented by counsel today. Sarah's attorney, a young woman who looked overwhelmed, stood up. Yes, Your Honor. Amanda Price representing the defendant. Ms. Price, has your client been informed of all charges? She has, Your Honor. We are entering a plea of not guilty to all charges. Not guilty. Even with video footage of her submitting fake documents, Sarah was claiming innocence. I should not have been surprised, but somehow I was. Your Honor, Prosecutor Walsh continued, the government requests the defendant remain in custody pending trial. Ms. Cole has demonstrated a pattern of deceptive behavior toward family members. Several victims have reported receiving threatening messages since her arrest. Threatening messages. I wondered if that included the 15 voicemails Sarah left on my phone over the past week, alternating between begging for mercy and accusing me of destroying her family. Ms. Price, your response. Your Honor, my client is a new mother with no prior criminal record. She has strong community ties and poses no flight risk. We request release on her own recognizance. The prosecutor stood again. Your Honor, the defendant committed identity theft against 7 family members across 5 states over 3.5 years. This demonstrates sophisticated criminal planning and willingness to exploit those who trusted her most. Additionally, the defendant's crimes against victim Linda Cole involved elaborate deception designed to maximize both financial damage and emotional trauma. Judge Harrison looked directly at Sarah for the first time. Ms. Cole, you defrauded your husband's grandmother. It was a misunderstanding, Your Honor. I never intended to. You forged her signature on legal documents while she was traveling across the country at your invitation to attend your child's birth. Sarah's attorney touched her arm trying to get her to stop talking, but she kept going. I was in labor, Your Honor. I was not thinking clearly. I just needed someone to take financial responsibility, and my mother-in-law has money. You excluded her from the birth after making her drive 16 hours to attend. That was a medical decision. My doctor recommended. Judge Harrison held up his hand. Ms. Cole, you are making this worse for yourself. Ms. Price, control your client. The judge reviewed the case file for several more minutes while Sarah whispered urgently with her attorney. Finally he looked up. Given the sophisticated nature of these crimes, the pattern of behavior spanning multiple years, and the defendant's apparent inability to accept responsibility, I am denying bail. Ms. Cole will remain in federal custody pending trial. Sarah burst into tears, but they looked fake to me. The same kind of manipulative crying I watched her use on Marcus whenever she wanted something. Marcus stood up from his seat. Your Honor, she just had a baby. Our son needs his mother. Sir, sit down. This is not the appropriate time. But Your Honor. Mr. Cole, sit down now, or I will hold you in contempt. Marcus sank back down, clutching Ethan tighter. Sarah's mother was openly crying. Her father sat completely still, staring at his daughter like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. As court officers led Sarah away, she turned and looked directly at me. For just a moment I saw something in her eyes that was not manipulation or self-pity. It was pure hatred. After the hearing I walked out and sat on a bench across the street watching Marcus's family emerge. They stood on the courthouse steps for several minutes, probably arguing about what to do next. Finally Sarah's parents got in their car and drove away without saying goodbye to Marcus or Ethan. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I hope you are proud of yourself. You destroyed my daughter's life. Sarah's mother, apparently. I deleted it without responding. Another text came right after. Ethan will grow up without his mother because of your vindictiveness. I turned off my phone and drove home thinking about vindictiveness. Was it vindictive to report crimes committed against you? Was it vindictive to refuse to help criminals escape consequences? Or was it vindictive to invite your mother-in-law to drive 16 hours for her grandson's birth, exclude her from the hospital, forge her signature on financial documents, then try to manipulate her into silence when she discovered the fraud? That evening I got a call from Agent Santos. Mrs. Cole, I wanted to update you on the case. Sarah's attorney reached out about a possible plea agreement. What kind of plea? Full restitution to all victims. Guilty pleas to reduce charges. Recommended sentence of 6 years with possibility of parole after 4. What do you think? Honestly, I think she should take it. If this goes to trial and she gets convicted on everything, she is looking at 18 years minimum. But it is not my decision to make. What happens next? The prosecutor will present the plea offer to all 7 victims. If everyone agrees, Sarah can avoid trial. If anyone objects, we proceed to full prosecution. After hanging up, I walked through my house thinking about justice versus mercy. Sarah had systematically stolen from family members who trusted her. She manipulated me into one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. She showed no remorse until she got caught. Even then she was blaming everyone except herself. But she was also Ethan's mother. And Marcus was going to struggle as a single parent if she went to prison for 18 years. My phone rang. Marcus's name on the screen. Mom, did Agent Santos call you about the plea deal? She did. Will you accept it? I looked at the framed photo on my wall from happier times when Marcus was young, and I thought I understood how family was supposed to work. I need time to think about it, Marcus. Mom, please. 6 years is already forever. Ethan will be in 1st grade when she gets out. Your wife committed federal crimes against 7 people, Marcus. 4 years seems pretty light for that level of betrayal. But it is not just about Sarah. It is about Ethan. It is about our family. Marcus, our family stopped existing when Sarah decided to commit identity theft against me. What we have now is just aftermath. I hung up and sat in my quiet house thinking about what justice should look like for someone who used family love as a weapon against people who trusted her most. The deadline for responding to the plea offer was Friday. I had 4 days to decide whether Sarah Cole deserved mercy or justice. And I was learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to save someone from consequences of their own actions. I rejected the plea deal Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, Sarah's attorney was calling me personally trying to negotiate. That is when I knew I made the right choice. Mrs. Cole, this is Amanda Price, Sarah's attorney. I understand you have concerns about the proposed plea agreement. I was in my garden watering tomato plants and enjoying the warm sunshine. Ms. Price, I have concerns about your client committing federal crimes against my family. I appreciate your position, but I think you should consider the impact of a lengthy trial on your grandson. The media attention. The family stress. There it was. The attempt to make me responsible for consequences of Sarah's choices. Ms. Price, my grandson's well-being should have been Sarah's priority before she decided to become a career criminal. Mrs. Cole, I think there may be information that could change your perspective on this case. Something in her tone made me stop watering. What kind of information? Could we meet in person? There are complications the prosecutor may not have shared with you. 2 hours later, I sat across from Amanda Price in her office downtown. She looked nervous, constantly adjusting papers and avoiding eye contact. Mrs. Cole, what I am about to tell you is confidential attorney-client information Sarah has authorized me to share, hoping to reach a resolution. I am listening. Sarah's crimes were not entirely her own idea. She was being coerced. I almost laughed out loud. Coerced? By who? Her ex-boyfriend. Sarah was in a relationship before Marcus with a man named Derek Lynch. Their breakup was complicated. Price pulled out a folder. Derek Lynch is a professional con artist with a history of sophisticated financial fraud. He trained Sarah in identity theft techniques and forced her to target her new family after she got with Marcus. Forced her how? Blackmail. Derek has compromising information about Sarah's past that could destroy her marriage to Marcus and her relationship with your family. I stared at Price, trying to understand this ridiculous story. So Sarah committed federal crimes against 7 family members because her ex-boyfriend made her do it. Essentially, yes. She has been sending Derek half of everything she stole to keep him from revealing her secrets. What secrets? Price hesitated. Sarah has a criminal record from before she met Marcus. Identity theft, fraud, several other charges. She served 22 months in prison in Oregon before moving to Colorado and reinventing herself. The room felt like it was tilting. Marcus does not know about this. No one knows. Sarah changed her last name, moved states, and created a completely new identity when she met Marcus. Derek discovered her new life and has been exploiting her ever since. I sat back in my chair processing this bombshell. If this was true, it meant Sarah was not just a desperate new mother who made bad decisions. She was a career criminal with an extensive history who lied about her entire identity to marry my son. Ms. Price, why are you telling me this? Because Sarah is terrified that if this goes to trial, Derek will surface as a witness and reveal everything. She is more afraid of Marcus discovering her past than she is of going to prison. And you think this information should make me more sympathetic to her? I think it explains why she made the choices she did. Sarah is not the master criminal the prosecutor is portraying. She is a victim herself. I stood up and grabbed my purse. Ms. Price, let me see if I understand correctly. Your client is a convicted felon who lied about her identity, married my son under false pretenses, committed crimes against his family while being blackmailed by her criminal ex-boyfriend. And you think this makes her more sympathetic? Mrs. Cole, the only thing this information tells me is that Sarah is a more sophisticated criminal than I realized. And that my son has been living with a complete stranger for 6 years. Please just consider. I am considering calling Marcus right now to warn him. He is married to a convicted felon. Price stood up quickly. Mrs. Cole, that would violate attorney-client privilege. I shared this in confidence. You shared it hoping I would feel sorry for your client. Instead, you convinced me she is even more dangerous than I thought. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Ms. Price, when this goes to trial, make sure the prosecutor knows about Derek Lynch. If Sarah has been sending stolen money to a known criminal, that is another federal crime. Mrs. Cole, please. Good day, Ms. Price. I drove home in a complete daze. Sarah was not just my daughter-in-law who made bad decisions. She was a career criminal who infiltrated my family under false pretenses. Marcus had no idea who he really married. Ethan had been born to a woman who had been lying about her identity since before she met his father. My phone was ringing when I got home. Marcus's name on the screen. Mom, Sarah's attorney said you met with her today. I did. She said you are still refusing the plea deal. That is correct. Mom, please. Sarah is already facing 6 years in prison. How is that not enough? I sat down at my kitchen table staring at a photo from Marcus's college graduation. Back when I thought I understood who my family was. Marcus, did Sarah ever tell you about her life before she moved to Colorado? Course. She grew up in Denver. Went to college in Wyoming. Worked in restaurant management before we met. Wait. Did she ever mention being married before? Silence. Then what are you talking about? Did she ever mention a criminal record? Mom, what the hell is going on? Marcus, I think you need to sit down. And you might want to arrange for someone to watch Ethan while we talk. As I prepared to destroy my son's understanding of his wife and the mother of his child, I realized that Sarah's crimes against me were just the beginning. The real crime was what she did to Marcus. Building their entire relationship on an elaborate lie that was about to come crashing down around him. Marcus's silence on the phone stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Marcus, are you still there? Criminal record. His voice was barely a whisper. Mom, what are you talking about? Sarah served 22 months in prison in Oregon for identity theft and fraud before she moved to Colorado and met you. That is impossible. I would have known. She changed her name and created a new identity, Marcus. Her attorney told me this afternoon. She is not who you think she is. I heard Ethan crying in the background, and Marcus's voice became muffled as he tried to comfort his son while processing that his wife was a stranger. Mom, how do you know this? How can this be true? Her attorney told me she has been blackmailed by her ex-boyfriend, a man named Derek Lynch, who is also a professional criminal. She has been stealing from our family and sending half the money to him to keep him quiet about her past. The crying in the background stopped, and I could hear Marcus moving around, probably going somewhere private. Jesus Christ, Mom, are you sure about this? Marcus, I need you to listen very carefully. Sarah has been lying to you about everything since the day you met. Her background, her family situation, her reasons for moving to Colorado. All of it lies. But I met her parents. I talked to her sister in college. Did you? Or did you meet people she introduced as her parents and sister? Another long pause. I could practically hear Marcus's world collapsing around him. Mom, what am I supposed to do with this information? You need to protect yourself and Ethan. If Sarah has been living under a false identity, there could be financial implications. Legal problems. Who knows what else? Legal problems. Marcus, you do not know who she really is. You have no idea what other secret she is hiding. I need to confront her. She is in federal custody, Marcus. You cannot just show up and demand answers. Then I need to hire my own attorney. I need to find out what else she has lied about. That is probably smart. Mom, if this is all true, if she has been lying about everything, then Ethan and I are both victims of her fraud too. Yes, you are. She made me help exclude you from Ethan's birth. She made me choose sides between my wife and my mother when I should have been protecting both of you from her lies. Marcus, you could not have known. But I should have questioned it when she insisted you could not be at the hospital. When she kept making excuses for why you could not visit. I should have realized something was very wrong. I heard the pain in his voice and wished I could take it away. But Marcus needed to understand the full scope of what Sarah had done to our family. There is something else, Marcus. According to her attorney, Sarah is more afraid of you discovering her past than she is of going to prison. She would rather serve 18 years than have you know who she really is. Well, it is too late for that now. Marcus, I want you to think about something. If Sarah has been stealing from family members and sending money to her ex-boyfriend, what else has she been lying about? Your finances. Your legal status as a married couple. Ethan's paternity. Mom, do not. I cannot even think about that right now. I know it is horrible, but you need to consider all possibilities. You need to protect yourself and Ethan. After hanging up with Marcus, I sat in my quiet house thinking about how many lives Sarah destroyed with her lies. Not just the 7 family members she stole from, but Marcus, who married a stranger. Ethan, who was born into a web of deception. Even Sarah's fake family, who had been playing roles in her elaborate fiction. My phone rang again. Agent Santos. Mrs. Cole, I just got some interesting information from Sarah's attorney. Apparently, she is being cooperative about providing details on her accomplice Derek Lynch. According to Sarah, Lynch has been running similar blackmail schemes against other women across the western states. She agreed to provide evidence against him in exchange for consideration at sentencing. What kind of evidence? Financial records, communication logs, details about his other victims. If Sarah's information leads to Lynch's arrest, it could significantly impact her own sentence. Agent Santos, can I ask you something? Did you know about Sarah's criminal record in Oregon? We discovered that during our background investigation, yes. Sarah Cole is not her real name. What is her real name? Jennifer Lynch. She was married to Derek Lynch when she committed her first series of identity theft crimes in Oregon. Their divorce was part of a plea agreement where she testified against him, but he was acquitted on a technicality. Jennifer Lynch. My daughter-in-law's real name was Jennifer Lynch, and she had been lying about her identity for the entire 6 years she was married to Marcus. Agent Santos, what happens to my son legally? If his wife has been living under a false identity, is their marriage even legal? That is a complicated question that would depend on Colorado state law and the specific circumstances of their marriage. Your son should definitely consult with a family law attorney. And what about my grandson? Birth certificate issues can usually be resolved through the courts. But again, your son needs legal representation. After ending the call, I realized that Sarah's crimes had created a legal nightmare that would take years to untangle. Marcus's marriage might not be legal. Ethan's birth certificate might be fraudulent. Their finances could be compromised. Their entire life together had been built on lies. My doorbell rang at 7 in the evening. Through the window I could see Marcus standing on my porch holding Ethan and a large duffel bag. Marcus, what are you doing here? Mom, can Ethan and I stay here tonight? I cannot be in that house right now. Everything in it reminds me of lies she told me. I opened the door and wrapped my son and grandson in the biggest hug I had given in months. Course you can stay. For as long as you need. As I helped Marcus settle Ethan in my guest room, I realized that Sarah's attempt to destroy our family had actually brought Marcus and me closer together. Her lies and manipulation had backfired completely. But I also knew the worst was yet to come. Because if Jennifer Lynch had been living under a false identity for 6 years, there were probably other secrets waiting to be discovered. And some of those secrets might be dangerous enough to threaten the safety of my son and grandson. The trial of Jennifer Lynch, also known as Sarah Cole, began on a cold Monday morning in March. The federal courthouse in Tampa was busier than I expected, with news vans parked outside and reporters interviewing anyone willing to talk about the case. Agent Santos had warned me that Sarah's case attracted media attention because of the sophisticated nature of her identity fraud and the fact that she victimized her own family members. Family fraud cases always get coverage, she explained. People want to understand how someone can betray the people who trust them most. Marcus and I arrived together, leaving Ethan with my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. Marcus had been staying with me for 5 weeks now, and we developed a comfortable routine. He would wake up early to feed Ethan while I made coffee. We would share breakfast and discuss the day's courtroom strategy, then drive downtown together. You ready for this? Marcus asked as we walked up the courthouse steps. Are you? I still cannot believe I was married to someone whose real name I did not even know. Marcus's attorney had confirmed that his marriage to Jennifer Lynch was legally valid despite her false identity. But the emotional betrayal was devastating. He also learned that Jennifer had been lying about her job, her education, and even her relationship with her supposed family in Denver. Mom, I keep thinking about all the times she talked about her childhood, her parents, her college experience. All of it was lies. Every single story. Marcus, you could not have known. She was a professional deceiver. Inside the courtroom, I was surprised by how crowded it was. Besides the 7 victim families, there were reporters, law enforcement officials, and what looked like other potential victims who came forward since Jennifer's arrest. Jennifer sat at the defendant's table wearing a conservative navy dress with her hair pulled back. She looked nothing like the confident woman who manipulated our family for years. She looked small, defeated, and much older than her 34 years. All rise for the Honorable Judge Thomas Harrison. As the trial began, prosecutor Daniel Walsh painted a picture of Jennifer Lynch that was even more disturbing than I imagined. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant is not who she claims to be. Jennifer Lynch has spent the last 9 years living under a false identity, committing identity theft across multiple states, and destroying the lives of people who trusted her most. Walsh explained that Jennifer had been arrested in Oregon in 2015 for identity theft and fraud, served 22 months in prison, then disappeared after her release. She created the identity of Sarah Cole using stolen documents and moved to Colorado specifically to find new victims. The defendant did not just steal money from her victims. She stole their sense of security, their trust in family relationships, and their belief that the people closest to them were who they claimed to be. Jennifer's attorney Amanda Price attempted to portray her client as a victim of circumstance. Jennifer Lynch made mistakes, serious mistakes, but she was driven to these actions by fear and desperation. Her ex-husband Derek Lynch is a dangerous criminal who threatened her safety and forced her into criminal activity through blackmail and intimidation. But when Walsh cross-examined Jennifer the next day, the victim narrative fell apart completely. "Miss Lynch, you testified that Derek Lynch forced you to steal from your husband's family. Is that correct?" "Yes. He threatened to tell Marcus about my past if I did not send him money. But you were already stealing from family members before Derek Lynch contacted you, were you not?" Jennifer hesitated. "I do not know what you mean. I am referring to the credit card fraud you committed against Marcus's brother Kevin Cole in April 2021. Derek Lynch did not contact you until July 2021, according to your own testimony." Jennifer's face went pale. "That was different. That was a mistake." "Mistake? You opened 5 credit cards in Kevin Cole's name, spent $9,000, and made no payments for 8 months. That was a mistake. I was going to pay it back. Just like you were going to pay back the $8,000 hospital bill you fraudulently assigned to Linda Cole. I was in labor. I was not thinking clearly." Walsh pulled out a document. "Miss Lynch, this is a transcript of your phone call with Linda Cole 4 days before you gave birth, inviting her to drive from Florida to Colorado for the delivery. Did Derek Lynch force you to make that call?" "No." "Did Derek Lynch force you to exclude Linda Cole from the hospital after she drove 16 hours to be there?" "No." "Did Derek Lynch force you to forge Linda Cole's signature on financial documents while she was traveling to see her grandson?" "No, but you do not understand the pressure I was under." Walsh walked closer to the witness stand. "Miss Lynch, is it not true that you invited Linda Cole to Colorado specifically so you could manipulate her into being financially responsible for your delivery?" "That is not. I did not plan it that way." "Is it not true that you researched Linda Cole's financial status before inviting her to the birth?" Jennifer did not answer. "Miss Lynch, we have evidence that you accessed Linda Cole's credit reports and bank statements 3 weeks before your son was born. Did Derek Lynch force you to do that financial research?" The courtroom was completely silent. Marcus grabbed my hand and his face was white with shock. "Miss Lynch, answer the question." "No," Jennifer whispered. "No, he did not force me to research her finances." "So you planned to defraud Linda Cole before you ever invited her to Colorado, did you not?" I thought she could afford it. She has money." "Miss Lynch, you planned to humiliate and defraud your husband's mother because you thought she could afford to be victimized." Jennifer started crying, but her tears looked calculated to me. "You do not understand what it is like to be scared all the time." "Scared of what, Miss Lynch?" "Being honest with your husband about who you really are." "Scared of getting a job to pay your own bills." "It is not that simple. Miss Lynch, you stole from 7 family members over 3.5 years. You lived under a false identity. You excluded your mother-in-law from her grandson's birth after making her travel across 2 states. And you did all of this because you were scared of being honest. Is that your testimony?" Walsh turned to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, fear of honesty is not a defense for federal crimes." As Jennifer was led back to the defendant's table, she looked directly at me for the first time since the trial began. And what I saw in her eyes was not remorse or regret. It was pure hatred. The same expression she wore when court officers led her away from the preliminary hearing. Jennifer Lynch was not a victim. She was not a desperate mother who made poor choices. She was a predator who targeted my family because she thought we were easy marks. And I had a feeling the worst revelations were still to come. On Thursday morning of the second week of trial, Prosecutor Walsh called a witness I had not been expecting. Detective Maria Rodriguez from the Oregon State Police. Detective Rodriguez, can you tell the jury about your investigation into Jennifer Lynch in 2015?
Certainly.
Miss Lynch was arrested as part of a larger investigation into an identity theft ring operating throughout the Pacific Northwest. She was one of 11 defendants in a case involving over $300,000 in fraudulent charges. Walsh pulled up a photograph on the courtroom monitor. Do you recognize the man in this photograph? Yes, that is Derek Lynch, Jennifer Lynch's husband at the time. He was the ringleader of the operation. Can you describe the nature of their criminal partnership? Derek Lynch recruited vulnerable women, typically those with financial difficulties or emotional problems, and trained them to commit identity theft. Jennifer was his most successful partner. I felt Marcus's hand tighten around mine. Jennifer had not been a victim of Derek's manipulation. She had been his criminal partner. Detective Rodriguez, what made Jennifer Lynch particularly effective at identity theft? She had a natural ability to gain people's trust and access their personal information. She was charming, sympathetic, and able to convince people to share details they would normally keep private, like social security numbers and financial information.
Exactly.
Jennifer would befriend elderly women, single mothers, people going through divorces, anyone who was emotionally vulnerable. She would offer help and support while gathering the information she needed to steal their identities. Walsh showed another document to the jury. Detective Rodriguez, this is a list of Jennifer Lynch's victims from 2015. How many people did she defraud? 19 victims over a 21-month period. Total losses exceeded $112,000. 19 victims. I thought Jennifer's crimes against our family were her first attempts at fraud. But she had been a career criminal long before she met Marcus. Detective Rodriguez, what happened to Derek Lynch? He was acquitted when Jennifer Lynch agreed to testify against him as part of her plea agreement. However, we suspected that she did not provide truthful testimony.
What do you mean?
Jennifer claimed that Derek forced her to commit the crimes, that she was an unwilling participant. But our investigation suggested that she was an equal partner who enjoyed the criminal lifestyle. Walsh turned to face Jennifer at the defendant's table. Detective Rodriguez, after Jennifer Lynch was released from prison in 2017, did she maintain contact with Derek Lynch?
Yes.
Our surveillance showed that they continued their romantic relationship and their criminal partnership. The divorce was fake, designed to help Jennifer establish a new identity. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Jennifer and Derek were still married. Jennifer's marriage to Marcus was bigamous. Detective Rodriguez, is Jennifer Lynch still married to Derek Lynch? As far as we can determine, yes. There is no record of their divorce ever being finalized. Marcus made a choking sound beside me. He had been living with a woman who was married to someone else. Someone who was running a criminal enterprise that included defrauding Marcus's family. Detective Rodriguez, do you believe Jennifer Lynch moved to Colorado to continue her criminal activities? Objection. Price called out. Sustained. Detective Rodriguez, based on your investigation, would you characterize Jennifer Lynch as a victim or a perpetrator? Jennifer Lynch is one of the most sophisticated identity thieves I have encountered in 23 years of law enforcement. She is not a victim. She is a predator who targets people's emotions and relationships to commit financial crimes. When Detective Rodriguez stepped down, I realized that everything we believed about Jennifer was wrong. She was not a desperate mother or a victim of an abusive ex. She was a career criminal who infiltrated our family as part of a larger criminal operation. During the lunch break, Marcus and I sat in the courthouse cafeteria while he processed the revelation that his marriage was illegal and his wife was a professional criminal. Mom, Ethan is not legally my son.
What do you mean?
If Jennifer is still married to Derek Lynch, then her marriage to me is invalid. Which means Ethan was born to a married woman who was living with someone else. Legally, Derek Lynch might be considered Ethan's father. I had not thought of that implication. Ethan's entire legal status was now in question because of his mother's lies. Marcus, we will figure this out. You will always be Ethan's father regardless of what the paperwork says. But what if Derek Lynch tries to claim parental rights? What if he uses Ethan to get leverage against us? Before I could answer, Agent Santos approached our table. Mr. Cole, Mrs. Cole, I need to speak with you privately. We followed her to a conference room down the hall. We have received some disturbing information about Derek Lynch. He has been arrested in Seattle for running a similar scheme involving identity theft and family fraud. Similar, how I asked. He has been placing female accomplices in relationships with wealthy men, having them gather financial information and commit fraud against the men's families. Marcus's face went white. Jennifer was not the only one.
Well,
we have identified at least 9 women across 6 states who were working for Derek Lynch. They would establish relationships with financially stable men, marry them or move in with them, then systematically defraud their families and friends. Agent Santos, I said slowly. Are you telling us that Jennifer targeted Marcus specifically because she thought our family had money? That is exactly what I am telling you. Jennifer researched your family for months before she moved to Colorado. She knew Marcus's profession, his family connections, your financial status, all before they ever met. Marcus put his head in his hands. Our entire relationship was a lie. She never loved me. She never wanted a family. It was all just a criminal operation. Marcus, Agent Santos continued, there is something else. Jennifer and Derek have been planning to disappear with Ethan after she gave birth. They wanted to take your son and use him as leverage to extort money from your family. Extort money how? Kidnapping for ransom, essentially. They would have demanded payment for Ethan's safe return. I felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. Jennifer had not just committed identity theft. She planned to kidnap my grandson and hold him for ransom. Agent Santos, where is Derek Lynch now? In federal custody in Seattle. He has been charged with conspiracy, identity theft, fraud, and kidnapping conspiracy. Kidnapping conspiracy. We found detailed plans for taking Ethan and demanding $750,000 from your family for his return. They researched your assets, your property values, your retirement accounts. They knew exactly how much they thought you could pay. Marcus looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, they were going to kidnap Ethan and make you pay ransom for your own grandson. As we prepared to return to the courthouse for the afternoon session, I realized that Jennifer's crimes were even worse than we imagined. She had not just stolen money from us. She infiltrated our family, planned to destroy our relationships, and ultimately intended to kidnap Ethan and hold him for ransom. But Jennifer Lynch had made one critical mistake. She underestimated the grandmother she tried to humiliate and defraud. And now it was time for her to learn exactly how expensive that mistake was going to be. The final day of Jennifer Lynch's trial brought a revelation that no one in the courtroom was prepared for, including me. Agent Santos took the witness stand looking grimmer than I had ever seen her. Agent Santos, can you tell the jury about the evidence recovered from Derek Lynch's apartment in Seattle? We recovered extensive documentation of what Mr. Lynch called family infiltration operations. These included detailed profiles of target families, financial research, and operational plans for each of his accomplices. Walsh handed her a thick folder. Agent Santos, did you find documentation related to the Cole family specifically? Yes. Derek Lynch had been researching the Cole family for over 3 years before Jennifer made contact with Marcus Cole. 3 years before Jennifer even moved to Colorado. Yes. The plan to target the Cole family was developed long before Jennifer and Marcus met. Walsh walked to the evidence table and picked up a large poster board. Agent Santos, what did Derek Lynch's research reveal about the Cole family? He identified Marcus Cole as an ideal target because of his stable income, his lack of criminal sophistication, and what Lynch characterized as exploitable family dynamics. What did Lynch mean by exploitable family dynamics? Agent Santos looked directly at me. Lynch identified Linda Cole as what he called a high-value secondary target because of her financial assets and her emotional attachment to family relationships. Felt cold all over. Derek Lynch had not just researched Marcus. He specifically studied me looking for ways to exploit my love for my family. Agent Santos, what was the ultimate goal of this operation? According to Lynch's documentation, the plan was to have Jennifer establish a relationship with Marcus, gain access to family financial information, commit systematic fraud against all family members, then disappear with any children born during the relationship. Disappear how? Lynch had detailed plans for fake deaths. Jennifer was supposed to stage her own death and Ethan's death in a car accident, then disappear with Lynch and the child. This would have allowed them to collect life insurance payments while maintaining control of Ethan for future extortion schemes. The courtroom was completely silent. Jennifer had planned to fake her own death and Ethan's death, letting Marcus grieve for his supposedly deceased wife and child while she lived somewhere else with Lynch and Ethan. Agent Santos, were there life insurance policies involved? Jennifer had taken out substantial life insurance policies on herself and Ethan with Marcus as the beneficiary. The premiums were being paid with money stolen from family members. Walsh turned to face the jury. So Jennifer Lynch was stealing from the Cole family to pay for life insurance policies that she planned to collect fraudulently after faking her own death and kidnapping Ethan. That is correct. Marcus was trembling beside me. Jennifer had not just planned to steal from us. She planned to destroy Marcus emotionally by making him believe his wife and child were dead while she lived comfortably somewhere else with Ethan and the insurance money. Agent Santos, what prevented this plan from being executed? Linda Cole's decision to report the hospital bill fraud initiated an investigation that uncovered the entire operation before Jennifer could stage the fake deaths. Walsh smiled. So Mrs. Cole's refusal to pay a fraudulent bill saved her grandson's life and possibly her son's life. According to Lynch's notes, if Marcus had become suspicious or uncooperative, he was also targeted for elimination. Jennifer's attorney Price stood up. Objection, Your Honor. This is highly prejudicial. Overruled. The witness may continue. Agent Santos pulled out another document. Derek Lynch's operational notes include specific plans for making Marcus Cole's death appear accidental if he discovered the truth about Jennifer's identity. I grabbed Marcus's hand as the full scope of Jennifer's plan became clear. She had not just targeted our family for financial fraud. She planned to psychologically destroy Marcus, kidnap Ethan, possibly murder Marcus if necessary, and steal hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. Agent Santos, in your professional opinion, what would have happened to the Cole family if Linda Cole had not reported the fraudulent hospital bill? Based on Lynch's timeline, Jennifer would have staged her death and Ethan's death within 8 months of his birth. Marcus would have grieved for his supposedly deceased family while Jennifer and Lynch collected insurance money and prepared Ethan for future criminal operations. Future criminal operations. Lynch's notes indicate that Ethan would have been raised to become part of the family infiltration operation when he reached adulthood. He would have been trained to target wealthy families just like his mother did. My grandson had been destined to become a criminal from birth, raised by people who kidnapped him and forced him to commit crimes against innocent families. Walsh turned to face Jennifer at the defendant's table. Miss Lynch, do you still maintain that you were a victim forced into criminal activity by your ex-husband? Jennifer had been staring at the table throughout Agent Santos's testimony, but now she looked up with the coldest expression I had ever seen. No, she said quietly. I do not. Miss Lynch, do you have anything to say to the Cole family? Jennifer stood up, ignoring her attorney's attempts to stop her. Yes, I do. She turned to face Marcus and me directly. You people thought you were so smart, so careful, so loving. But you were just marks. Easy targets who deserved what happened to them. Miss Lynch, Judge Harrison warned. I advise you to. Marcus, you were pathetic. So desperate for love that you never questioned anything I told you. So trusting that you handed over your entire life to a stranger. Marcus's face was white, but he did not look away.
And Linda.
Jennifer's voice became venomous. You were the perfect target. A lonely old woman with money who was so desperate to be needed by her family that you would pay any price for acceptance. Miss Lynch, sit down now, Judge Harrison ordered. The only thing I regret is getting caught before I could finish what we started. You have no idea how satisfying it would have been to watch Marcus grieve for his dead wife and child while I lived comfortably somewhere else with Ethan and your money. Two court officers moved toward Jennifer as she continued her rant. Ethan would have grown up to be just like me. Smart, ruthless, and completely unsentimental about family bonds. He would have been perfect for this work. Remove the defendant, Judge Harrison ordered. As the officers led Jennifer away, she called back over her shoulder. Linda, you may have won this round, but there are others like me out there and you will never feel safe again. The courtroom remained silent for several minutes after Jennifer was removed. Finally, Judge Harrison addressed the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will disregard the defendant's outburst. Please base your verdict solely on the evidence presented. But everyone in that courtroom had seen who Jennifer Lynch really was. Not a victim, not a desperate mother, but a calculating predator who viewed my family as nothing more than financial resources to be exploited. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood and delivered the verdict. On all counts of identity theft, fraud, conspiracy, and kidnapping conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty. Judge Harrison sentenced Jennifer Lynch to 28 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. As we left the courthouse, Marcus carrying Ethan against his chest, I realized that Jennifer's plan had backfired completely. She tried to destroy our family, but her crimes actually brought Marcus and me closer together than we had been in years. Mom, Marcus said as we walked to the car. I do not know how to thank you.
For what?
For refusing to let her get away with it. If you had just paid that hospital bill and stayed quiet, Ethan and I would probably be dead by now while she collected insurance money. I looked at my grandson sleeping peacefully in his father's arms, completely unaware that his mother had planned to kidnap him and raise him to be a criminal. Marcus, the only thing Jennifer was right about is that there are others like her out there. But she was wrong about one thing. What is that? I will never feel unsafe again because now I know exactly what predators look like. And I know I am strong enough to fight them. As we drove home through the Florida sunset, Ethan babbling happily in his car seat, I realized that Jennifer Lynch had given me something she never intended to give. The knowledge that I could protect my family from anyone who tried to hurt them. And if another predator ever targeted my family, they would learn the same lesson Jennifer learned. Some grandmothers are too smart, too stubborn, and too loving to be easy victims. 6 months after Jennifer's sentencing, Marcus and I sat in my living room watching Ethan take his first wobbly steps. My grandson had no memory of the woman who planned to kidnap him. No understanding of how close he came to growing up in a criminal operation designed to exploit families just like ours. Marcus had filed for divorce from Jennifer, even though their marriage was technically invalid due to her bigamy. He was working with attorneys to legally establish his sole custody and parental rights. The process was complicated, but we were making progress. Mom, Marcus said as Ethan stumbled into his arms, giggling. I got a call from Kevin today. How is he doing?
Good, actually.
He said the restitution money from Jennifer's case helped him pay off the credit card debt she stuck him with. All 7 victims had received partial restitution from Jennifer's seized assets. It was not the full amount stolen, but it was something. More importantly, it was validation that what happened to us was real. Marcus continued. Kevin also said he is starting a support group for family fraud victims. People who were stolen from or manipulated by their own relatives. That is wonderful. He asked if we would be willing to speak at the first meeting. Share our story so other people do not feel so alone.
What did you tell him?
I said I would ask you first. This is your story too, Mom. I looked at my grandson playing with his blocks on the floor. Happy. I've loved everything Jennifer tried to take away from him. I think we should do it, Marcus. If our story can help even one person recognize the warning signs or find the courage to report fraud against them, then it is worth sharing. Marcus smiled, and it was the first real smile I had seen from him in months. I love you, Mom. You saved our lives. You know that, right? I saved us by refusing to be a victim, Marcus. By trusting my instincts when something felt wrong. By standing up for what was right even when it meant standing alone. You would have done the same for me.
Hope so. I really hope so.
As the sun set over Tampa, casting golden light through my windows, I realized that Jennifer Lynch's attempt to destroy my family had actually made us stronger. Marcus and I talked more openly now. We trusted each other more deeply. We appreciated each moment with Ethan, knowing how easily it all could have been taken away. Jennifer was serving 28 years in federal prison. Derek Lynch got 32 years for his role in the larger criminal operation. 9 other women who worked with Derek were also convicted and sentenced. Dozens of families across 6 states were finally getting justice. But the real victory was not Jennifer's prison sentence. It was Ethan laughing as his father tickled him. It was Marcus building a new life free from lies and manipulation. It was me knowing that when my family needed protection, I did not hesitate. I did not back down. I fought for what was right no matter the cost. Some people might say I should have forgiven Jennifer. That I should have accepted the plea deal and shown mercy. That family should always come first. But those people do not understand that real family does not steal from you. Real family does not lie about their identity for years. Real family does not plan to fake their death and kidnap your grandchild for ransom money. Jennifer Lynch was never family. She was a predator wearing a family mask. And the moment I saw through that mask, I did what any grandmother would do. I protected my cubs with everything I had. As I tucked Ethan into his crib that night, singing him a lullaby, I realized that this was the moment I had driven 16 hours to experience. Not the drama at the hospital. Not the fraud investigation or the trial. This moment right here. My grandson safe and loved in my home while his father rebuilt his life in the room next door.